going to share the full the page. Okay, can you see my slides now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, now this is chapter 2. Okay, last week what we have done is that we have introduced you to research, a little bit about research, and how does a research project benefits a student. Okay, in addition to that, uh, I have also highlighted, okay, the importance of you to look for a good title for yourself, and also to approach the potential supervisor, okay, the potential lecturer that will be supervising you, so if you are doing your final year project. Okay, so basically, although this particular course should be focusing on just the methodology, because the title of the subject is research methodology, but what I'm going to do is that I'm going to add some other things which is related to research but not necessarily research methodology. Okay, why? Because sometimes when we try to cover certain things, it is important for me to put everything in context so that you can understand. Okay, that is number one. Okay, number two, okay, I understand that some of you are taking, if perhaps most of you are taking a final year project one this semester. Okay, for the details of what you need to do for the final year project one, I think we have another course, FYP1, which is being conducted by Miss Nurul Sharas. She is supposed to explain to you the details. However, what I'm going to do is on the some aspects of what I'm going to cover today will be like overlapping. However, I think it is important for me to actually explain this so that you can understand my view on this. And in addition to that, some students may not have taken FYP1 this semester, perhaps next semester. So it is important for me to highlight how do you write a research proposal, okay? Because this is the starting point of of your research. Okay, now I put this as chapter 2, part 1. Okay, because part 1, because we are not going to cover everything, okay, today, just half of it. Okay, now let me go on about what is a research proposal. Okay, a research proposal is intended to convince others that you have a worthwhile research project and that you have the competence and the work plan to complete it. Okay, all research proposals must address the following questions: what you plan to accomplish, why you want to do it, and how you are going to do it. So meaning that there is these elements of what, why, and how. Okay, these are the important things that you need to put into the research proposal. Okay, in the context of final year project 1, okay, you need to write a proper, at least if not a perfect research proposal, at least a decent research proposal, so that the research proposal can be used to convince the lecturers or the panel whether your proposal, okay, is a worthwhile BSE final year project research. Is a worthwhile. So when I say is a worthwhile, okay, one things that we are focusing here, because when we have BSE, Bachelor of Software Engineering, we expect, okay, the project to be a BSE project, okay. So we wouldn't want you to do like a business project, okay, or perhaps you are going to create something related to largely robotics project. Okay, you create a robot. Okay, so and perhaps the hardware is more on compared to the software. So basically, we need to make sure that you are on the right track. Number one. Okay, number two. Okay, we you need to convince us that the depth of the project is suitable, is appropriate for the number of credits that we have. So you must remember FYP1 plus FYP2, there is a total of um, 10 credits, or no, it's a lot of credits. Okay, it's a lot of credits. Okay, so I'm not sure how many credits, but it's a lot of credits. So, and you are going to spend 2 semesters doing it. So we must make sure that the project is worth the credit. And number 3, we must make sure that the level of complexity of the project is suitable for a bachelor's level. Okay, we wouldn't want something that we consider too easy, too simple, or too basic. And we also are very cautious on allowing you to do that something that is very complicated. Okay, unless perhaps you are excellent students, you are a genius, you may convince us that, yes sir, I want to do this because although looks very complicated, but I think that I can do this, I have the capability. So this is the purpose of a research proposal. Okay. Any question on in general of the research proposal? Any question from anyone here? Okay, if not, let us go to the next slide. Okay, now, what are the elements of a project or a research proposal? Sometimes in our context of FYP, we use interchangeably. Sometimes we call it project proposal, sometimes we call it research proposal. But in general, okay, in the context of our FYP, the project is actually merged, integrated with research. So basically, you can say that the project, there are elements of research in the project. Okay, so sometimes we call project proposal, sometimes we call research proposal. Both are correct in the context of FYP. Okay, now, okay, in general, okay, there are several elements that you should include in your project proposal. Okay, okay, in the slides here, I have listed 11 elements. Okay, now these 11 elements, okay, if you happen to actually Google or do some research, some reading from various other sources, okay, the number of elements may change because sometimes, you know, they structure this differently, but in general, the content are the same. Okay, okay, but I think it's not of something that we worry too much. Okay, so what I'm going to explain to you is the structure in the context of the requirements of the BSE final year project. Okay, now, the first element is what we call the project title. Okay, number 2 is introduction. Number 3 is project background. Okay, in some other proposals, they tend to combine between introduction and project background. Okay, so you may see in some other proposals elsewhere by some other universities or some other institution, introduction and background are combined. Sometimes they just call overview, project overview. That can also be introduction and background. Okay, sometimes they use background, it covers introduction. Sometimes they give introduction, it covers background. Okay, but for our FYP1 research proposal, there are 2 separate elements. introduction and project background. So I will actually guide you on how do you tackle this, because we have two split here. Okay, number 4, we have problem statement. Number 5, research objectives, or sometimes it is called just objectives or project objectives. Okay, number 6, scope of the project. Number 7, program of work. Okay, this is program of work is your work plan. Okay, what you plan to do from the beginning until the end. Okay, number 8 is resource list. Number 9, expected product or expected outcome. Number 10, the conclusion. And number 11, bibliography or reference. Okay, reference. So these are the 11 elements of a project proposal or a research proposal. Okay, for today, I hope to cover number 1 until number 6. Okay, from project title, introduction, project background, problem statement, research objectives, and scope of the project. Okay, for 7 to 11, I will cover some other times. Okay, may not be next week, but some other time. Okay. Okay, any question on this slide? This is the second slide.
No, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me proceed to the third slide. Okay, let me go to the first element, which is the project title. Okay, now, when you choose your project title, okay, the title should be concise. Concise in Malay dia kata padat. Padat, ringkas dan padat. That is concise. Okay, now, several phrases could be omitted from the project title. Okay, for example, there is investigation of a development of, okay, for the context of the FYP BSE, okay, please do not add this, okay, investigation of a development of as the title. For example, a development of mobile COVID-19 contact tracing application. A development of COVID-19 contact tracing application. Okay, there is a development of. Okay, please do not include this a development of. Why? Because we assume, okay, within context of BSE, you are developing something. Okay. Okay, what about an investigation of? Investigation of, okay, let's say I give you one example. An investigation of why Malaysians are not fully using the My Sejahtera mobile apps for contact tracing. Let's say that's the title. There is an investigation of why Malaysians do not use the My Sejahtera mobile application for contact tracing. Okay, now, why we do not accept that? Because in BSE final year project, we expect you to develop something, not just to investigate something. Okay, although investigate is a research, is a valid research question, but for the requirements of the BSE FYP, okay, you need to develop something. So that's why we do not accept that. But in some research, that may be a valid title. Okay, so this is what we mean by the title should be concise. Okay, concise meaning in Malay, ringkas tetapi padat. Okay, okay, any question on this? Concise. Okay.
No, doctor.
Okay, let me go. The second point is that Okay, just now I say that the title should be concise, ringkas padat, but the title should also be descriptive. Descriptive means that the title itself must give a good general idea of what the project is all about. Okay, what the project is all about. For example, let me give you several titles that I consider is a good example. Meaning that, yes, you can understand something from this. Okay, now these are some of the titles that I pick up from previous FYP project. Okay, here we have one example number one, attendance system using face recognition for UniKL MIIT. Okay, attendance system using face recognition for UniKL MIT. Okay, I consider this as a good example. Why? First, I know the system. This is the outcome of the research or the project is to develop a system. Okay, what kind of system? Attendance system. Okay, now this is I highlighted. This is attendance. Is about attendance. Now here, the title is being detailed a little more. Okay, meaning that now, because we say that when we want to have a research, you must do something that we consider interesting. Okay, here the interesting part is that the project wants to use a technology which is the face recognition technology, which is for me is interesting. Why? Because currently most of the attendance system is based on we just we type in or we check box and so on, but not using face recognition. Now this is something interesting. So there is included the main technology here, and there is for UniKL MIT, meaning that for UniKL MIT, because you know that this attendance system based on the environment of UniKL MIT. So this title I consider a good example, the good title. Okay, just the title doesn't mean that the system is good. Okay, I have no idea whether the system is good or not, but the title is good. The title is good. Okay, any question on this? Okay, clear, yeah? Descriptive. Okay. Okay, example, another example. Okay, now this is another example, a good title. Okay, here you will notice there is EduShare. Okay, now this particular student decided that this student wants to give a name to the product. So if you want to give a name to the product, so you put in, okay, the first here, for example, EduShare : so meaning that we know that the name of the product is EduShare. Okay, so this is the name of the product. Okay, and you see the first one, there's no name of the product. Doesn't mean that when you have you need not necessarily put a name to a product. Okay, should be okay. But here there is a name here, EduShare : a hybrid application for the open access and management of online academic content. So here, what these students trying to create, has created actually, is a hybrid application, meaning that the application is actually a combination of, there is the mobile and also the web. Okay, it's a hybrid. Okay, why did these students highlighted the word hybrid? Because actually he put a lot of emphasis, because he created this application using Ionic and web. So meaning that you have a mobile version, we have a web version. So there's a lot of emphasis on there. So that's why he wanted to highlight that this is a hybrid application. So this is a hybrid. And here we have is about the open access and management of online academic content. Okay, at least although we are not sure what are the detail within this, but at least we know what it's all about. This is number 2. Okay, now number 3, example, car speed notification system based on distance from traffic light with voice integration. Okay, so this is also sometimes likes very long, but this is, we consider this as descriptive. Okay, because we are sure this is a notification system, something related to how when you drive a car, okay, it will give like notification for based on the speed when you are some distance from the traffic light. And there is also integration with some voice integration. So basically, these are another good example of the project title. Okay, number 4, we have CARE, C-A-R-E. So this is the name of the product. Okay, a name of the product. So CARE, a mobile application for in-home services for elderly caregiver. Okay, meaning that this is a mobile app, and I think it relates to how this is like elderly caregiver. This is like people who are giving service to the elderly at home. So meaning that, you know, sometimes you have a very you have grandmother, grandfather, nobody has is going to take care of them. So sometimes you hire someone, okay, who are going to take care of them in terms of their health, their daily routine and so on. So actually this particular student trying to create this app that is suitable to support this kind of services. Okay, so this is very interesting. You know why interesting? Because it's not something that it's not common. It's not common. Okay, lastly, okay, why is it that I highlight in red? Okay, because I'm going to use this title for some of the case studies, some examples, okay, in this particular slide based on this one. Okay, so this title we have BelajarLab. Okay, BelajarLab is actually the name of the application, a virtual lab learning application for simulating chemistry experiments in the SPM syllabus. Okay, and you can see that the application, the name of the title itself is very descriptive. So meaning that at least when you read the title, it gives some idea on what the research is all about and why is it unique and special in the case of the FYP. And this particular title, I'm going to use this as a case study in the slides, in the coming slides. Okay, any question on the project title? So this is what I say, concise and descriptive. So okay, any questions on this? Good examples? Okay, semua clear ya?
Betul.
Okay, now next slide. Okay, now these are some project titles that I consider poor examples. Okay, poor examples based on my view. Okay, because sometimes whether it's good or poor, it is subjective. Okay, subjective. The supervisor may not agree, but this is my view. Okay, why is it poor? Okay, let me show you. E-Silat, number 1. E-Silat. Okay, do you know what this app is all about? I have no idea. Is this an app about how to learn silat? Or is it a game, E-Silat? Or is it a system to manage a club related to silat. Okay, silat, for those who are not aware, is a traditional Malay martial art form. Okay, silat, and there is an E here. So I guess something electronical in nature, but I have no idea what this project is all about. E-silat. So this is why I say it is poor, because it is not descriptive. Okay. Number 2, Golf Pro. Similar, I have no idea what this app is all about. Golf Pro. Okay. Harish GPS. So I have no idea what is Harish. What is GPS? Oh, I know GPS, what GPS is, but what does it do? Okay. No idea what this is all about. Okay. This one, early heart defect detection. So meaning that this is actually it's not a proper name, because is it a system? Is it an app? No mentioning here. And yeah, you can actually detect your heart defect, okay, manually. So is this an electronic system, or what is it? Okay, or is it just a web page highlighting information? So we have no idea what this is. So this is also a poor example. Okay, Pharma Finder. Okay, I can guess that this is to find a pharmacy. To find pharmacy. But then, what is it? Is it an app? Okay, what's so special about this? Because if you want, you can use like there are many applications like Waze. Okay, even you can find information. Okay, you can Google. So why do you need a Pharma Finder? So what does Pharma Finder do? What's so special? What's so unique about Pharma Finder? So this is the title is poor. I'm not saying that the project is poor, but the choice of words to be used in the title is poor. Recycle bottle machine. So again, I'm questioning, is this BSE? Recycle bottle machine, yeah? A machine to recycle bottle. So basically, is this a BSE project? And what does it do? Okay, I have question mark on this. Okay, now, laundry system. Okay, okay, for me, this is a poor title. Why? Okay, I know that, of course, it's a system, information system, is related to a laundry. Perhaps it's a laundry business. But again, now the problem is that with this title, it's too general. Because it can be anything. Is it a laundry system so that the user can like, for example, the application by Petronas, Settle, Settle. This is like a mobile app for you to pay for the petrol, okay, without going, just using the mobile apps. So is it that kind of system, so that you can go to the some laundry, so you can actually, rather than put money in the some, you can use an app for you to pay for the laundry system? Or is it related to, you have a laundry business, you have an information system to manage the accounting, okay, and so on, related to the laundry business? So what is it actually? So for me, like, if you have, although you have laundry system, we can understand it's about laundry, but it lacks detail, description of what does this system do, and how is it unique and special. Remember that when you choose a final year project, a research, it must be interesting. And academic research must be something that is interesting. What makes it interesting? Because it's not common, or perhaps it uses a certain technology that is not common to us. Okay, so these are examples of a poor project title. Okay, so doesn't mean that the project is poor, just the title is poor. Okay, Any question on this? Okay.
Sir,
Yes.
let's say if we do a project for a client or a company,
Okay.
should we include their name in the title?
Okay. So basically, okay. Thank you very much. Okay. Let's say that you are, okay, you are creating a particular information system, a system for company ABC. Okay, company ABC. Okay. For me, it is not important for you to add the name of the company in the title. Okay, because uh, doesn't make it special. Okay, just to have a company doesn't make it special unless the company is special. For example, let's say that you are going to create, let's say, let me give you one example, which is something that is fabricated, it's not true. Okay, let's say I'm going to create a, let's say, uh, contact uh, contact tracing application. Okay, contact tracing application for university students in Malaysia. Okay, that is not the name of company. Uh, let's say that Microsoft hire me to create a contact tracing application for Microsoft. So you see that Microsoft itself is a big name, is a big name. Okay, so basically sometimes people want to add the big name to the title because it sounds bigger. So that can be considered if that is the case. Okay. So if you just take any company who is who are um, for example, I give you another company, KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken, KFC. Okay, let's say you have application for blah 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 blah. Okay, for Kentucky Fried Chicken. So meaning that so now KFC is a big name relatively to Malaysians. So you can consider including the name of the company, okay, in your title. So but if your company is just a company that is small or something that is for example, let's say my wife have a business, the business name is Jahit Dari Hati. Okay, mobile application for blah blah blah, doing something for Jahit Dari Hati company. Then people ask, what is Jahit Dari Hati? What is this? So basically, it's better not to include the name in the title. So is that satisfactory to you in terms of the answer?
Okay, yes, thank you, sir.
Okay, any question on this title? Okay, let me move on. Okay, number 2, the element number 2 is introduction. Okay, just now we have title, second is introduction. Okay, now here I have mentioned just now is that in some of the proposals, introduction and project background is combined. It is put into one segment. But for our FYP, okay, students are required to have one introduction section, another project background. Okay, so my advice, okay, is that this is what I'm going to mention. This is just a guide. Okay, there is like no right or wrong. So this is just a guide for you to just a logical thing to do. Okay, before that, let me cover first. In bachelor level FYP, the outcome of the project is largely a system or an application. So either you do an information system. So normally an information system You have a system with a specific requirements, okay, from the company, okay, to process something. Okay, that is system. Okay, sometimes it's an application. Application meaning that it does something, a task, but it does not normally belong to a particular company. There is no like so on. Okay, for example, like sometimes we have attendance system. So there is a system for UniKL. So there is a process there. Okay, but when you have an application, normally sometimes let's say that application to learn how to cook. So that is an application. Okay. Okay. Now, most of the systems or the projects or the applications exist to cater to specific needs. Cater to specific needs in a particular area of interest, such as education, management, medical, and so on. Okay, I think many of the projects done by final year project, BSE final year project students, normally there is application in different areas. For example, education. Sometimes there is I've done, some students have created mobile app to learn Jawi, mobile app to learn Jawi, mobile app to learn Arabic. Okay, there are some. This is education. There is some information system, medical information system for clinic ABC for that particular clinic, or for example, some businesses to manage the accounting. So meaning that is in management. Okay, sometimes there is like medical related, for example, the COVID-19 contact tracing application. Okay, because it relates to the medical field. So meaning that many of the product of FYP in BSE caters to specific needs. Okay, specific in a different area, meaning that you can see that contact tracing is not IT. Okay, but we use IT to contact trace, but the area itself, area of interest is medical. Okay, or in Malay they call pengurusan kesihatan umum, sort of something like that. Okay, public health management. Okay, that is the particular area. So, okay, when you have such, so I recommend to you. So if you want to write an introduction, okay, the purpose of introduction is to introduce the topic and the area of interest, and you need to highlight its relevance. Okay, now for the proposal, so we are talking about proposal now. We are not talking about the final thesis. Final thesis is different. Okay, now this is just a research proposal. Okay, 1 or 2 paragraphs are sufficient. Okay, do not put like 2 pages of introduction. No, 1 to 2 paragraphs. 1 to 2 paragraphs. Okay, you need to introduce the topic. You need to highlight why is it important. Why is it important? Okay, I give you some example after this. Okay, now this is one example. Okay, now this is taken from one of the title just now. BelajarLab, a virtual lab learning application for simulating chemistry experiments in the SPM syllabus. Okay, now, these particular students had 2 paragraphs. 2 paragraphs for the introduction in the proposal. Okay, now, for paragraph 1, okay, paragraph 1, she describes, because the title is related to the domain, the area of interest is chemistry. This is learning chemistry, chemistry lab at school at the SPM level. So the first paragraph, she introduces about SPM. See the first line, SPM, Sijil Pelajaran Malaysia, or the Malaysian Certificate of Education is a national examination taken by all fifth year secondary school students in Malaysia. Okay, this particular the blue font that I put here, this is called citation. Okay, now this citation I will cover next week. Starting from next week, I will cover citation. How citation means that this content is taken from somewhere, from a book, from a report, from a particular web page, some information from a different source. So how do we mention, where do we take this? This is called a citation. So how to cite, I will cover in the following weeks. Okay, now you see that the first line, it covers about what is SPM. Okay, what is SPM? The second line, it covers that, okay, in SPM there is a subject. The subject is chemistry. Okay, now we can see that this is to highlight that there exists the subject chemistry. The third line within this paragraph, she actually decided to actually say that, okay, what is chemistry? Chemistry is the branch of science, so and so and so. Okay, you can see that here within the first paragraph, she actually highlighted, she did not highlighted about the application and so on. She highlighted about the area of interest. Okay, introduce that. Okay, this is paragraph 1. Now, the second paragraph, okay, she describes the chemistry experiment in the SPM syllabus. So, meaning that this is also related to the area of interest. So, here, because the application will cover, her application will cover some elements of chemistry experiment in the SPM, she describes about this. So, here, say that, okay, it covers theoretical, practical. It covers that, okay, these are the experiments. There are how many experiments in the KBSM syllabus and so on. Okay, meaning that about the experiment itself. You can see that both paragraph 1 and paragraph 2 in the introduction did not cover about, oh, I'm going to develop this app which is a virtual lab application. No. She did not cover anything about it, but she focuses on the area of interest. The area of interest. Okay, for example, I give you a different example introduction. Let's say that you want to create a learning application about for autistic students. You know, autistic is some kind of disability to especially to from young age. Okay, autistic. So if you want to put introduction, you may want to say that, okay, what is autistic? Autistic is actually a condition considered as a disabled. So autistic student cannot do this, and what is the condition? Okay, at school, how do you handle autistic student? What kind of education or content that we give to autistic student and so on? So you actually add in the introduction about the area of interest. Okay, another example. Let's say that just now I say, like, let's say that I have an application for contact tracing COVID-19. Okay, potential people under investigation and so on. Okay, contact tracing for COVID-19. Okay, for introduction, it is good to say that, okay, now COVID-19, talk about COVID-19. Okay, COVID-19 is actually an infectious disease caused by a certain virus believed to be originated from Wuhan, China, for example. And the virus started from since late 2019. That's why the name COVID-19. And perhaps you will say that, okay, now this virus is very dangerous. because it is very infection, can cause serious harm to people, including death and so on. So meaning that uh, and it is important for the authorities to actually detect those who have contact with those who have confirmed or believed to be positive. That is one part of the prevention of this virus, to prevent this virus from be spread very quickly. So now all this, you see, we are not talking about the apps, but we are talking about the area of interest. So meaning that you can actually add in the introduction, especially focus on the area of interest. So now this is introduction. Okay, this is just now introduction. Okay. Okay, any question on the introduction? You can see that you do not need to put very long, but what's important, the purpose of introduction is to introduce. Okay, because some people may not know what is COVID-19. Some people may not know what is autistic or autism. Perhaps some people are not knowledgeable of what is this chemistry experiment of in SPM and so on. So this is to introduce especially the area of interest. Okay, any question from anyone? Introduction?
Prof,
Yes?
it means that we don't relate it too much with our system or project, but be more on focusing the area of interest.
Yes. Yes, because we have two parts. We have introduction. After this, we have project background, right? Because there are two. So in the introduction, okay, again, this is not like you say, if you are a Muslim, you say this is not like Quran, meaning that if you say this is so, cannot be other ways. No. Or for if you are a Christian, this is not like a Bible. So this is just a guide. Some people may include this. So we are not going to say this is wrong, but we are saying that it's better this way. Okay, I would recommend as a better approach, because you want to introduce something, introduce the area of interest first before going into the apps, because the apps is a solution, right? The app is the solution to the problem. So now introduce what it's all about. Okay, so cover this is what called area of interest. Okay, anyone else? Any question? Okay, boleh faham ya? Okay. Okay, next. Okay, the third element is the project background. Okay, now this is the project background. Okay, I've read in the guide, in the FYP guide, okay, they say that you have to explain and so on. So my take on this is that what you need to do now is that in the project background is that you briefly explain. Okay, the keyword is briefly. You do not want to actually explain too much. We don't want 2 or 3 pages of things. Okay, so briefly explain the overall basic information related to the project title, such as the organization, company background, current system, etc. Okay, if there is any. Okay, now if there is no specific organization or company involved, okay, for example, let's say that there's no specific company requirement, so you can briefly explain existing related solution. Okay, I will give you an example so that you can see clearly after this. Okay, now for the background is very similar to introduction. Here we give you a little more, 2 to 3 paragraphs. Okay, 2 to 3 paragraphs. Okay, now let me give you an example. Okay, now using our case study just now, the BelajarLab, a virtual lab learning application for simulating chemistry experiments in the SPM syllabus. Okay, these students actually included two paragraphs for the background. Okay, now for this particular project, this case study, she does not have a user in terms of like, okay, you create this for company ABC. So what he did was like, he tried to create the application based on like reference to the book, because you have the SPM chemistry book. So there is in the book there is like chemistry experiments. So how does she create a virtual experiment from the book? Okay, but it's virtual in nature. Okay, so meaning that there's no real user in terms of doesn't mean that it's no real user, but it's not like you create something for a particular company. So the company will decide, oh, I want like this, like this, like this. No, she must use her creativity and innovativeness to come up with what is a good application. Nobody told her what to do, so she need to be creative. So in the context of this case study, now you can see that for the first paragraph, she continues here. She describes existing methods of learning chemistry experiments. Okay, in the introduction, she talks about SPM. She talks about in general, okay, what is chemistry. Okay, she talks about in the SPM also there is like certain experiments and so on. Okay, in the project background, she included that here, for example, let me read this. There are several methods or medium for students to learn and understand experiments under the SPM chemistry subject. These methods are by referring to textbooks or revision books. So this is method. Textbooks or revision books, watching learning videos, learning via e-learnings that work like an interactive textbook. So meaning that these are the existing methods. So if you go into the previous slide, you can see that existing related solutions. So meaning that if you want to learn chemistry experiments, she is saying that you can refer to the textbooks, refer to the revision book. You can watch videos, perhaps YouTube videos, or perhaps there is like e-learning website and so on, interactive textbook and so on. Okay. So apologize for the noise. It's very noisy outside. Okay. Okay, so basically here she covers about, for example, about the methods. In paragraph 2, she covers about what is the virtual lab. Okay, what is the virtual lab? She covers about there is the technology, general technique use, the animation use in the virtual lab. Okay, and something related to the technology itself. Okay, so this is in paragraph 2. Okay, now because this project does not have any like stakeholder. For example, let's say you want to create a particular system for this particular company. So there's no description of the company or organization information. Okay, for example, let's say that I give you one example. If, for example, she is creating this for Mara, but she is not. Let us assume that she is creating this for Mara. Mara asked her to for MRSM students. Okay, for the MRSM students, Maktab Rendah Sains Mara. The specific requirement is decided by Mara. So what she can do is that she can add another paragraph just to include information about MARA, about MRSM, and so on. So related to the company. But again, you don't go like one page of about the organization. One paragraph is sufficient. Okay, just briefly about, okay, MARA is a government agency whereby one of the uh, MARA's uh, MARA also contributed to education, to and under MARA there is like more than 50 MRSMs, whereby chemistry is being taught as part of the subject compulsory to all MRSMs. Okay, meaning that you can cover that part within the project background. Okay, okay. Now, in the project background, please do not talk about your application. Okay, do not talk about your application that you are going to create. You see that? You don't say here, oh, my application is so and so and so. No, within the project background, we don't cover about what we are going to do yet. We don't cover it here. But it's about something else, okay? Something related. So this is like introduction and project background. Very brief. So research proposal, for introduction, 1 to 2 paragraphs. For project background, 2 to 3 paragraphs. Okay. Any question? Ada sebarang soalan? Is it clear? Okay, tak apa. So if clear is good, because these are the things that I will ask you to do in assignment. Okay? Okay, now next, number 4 is the problem statement. Is the problem statement. Okay, so what is a problem statement? So a problem statement identifies the problem that occurs related to the project which you wish the outcome of your work to be evaluated. Okay, so again, when you go into research, a research must have a problem. So the purpose of a research is to solve a problem. So if you cannot describe properly what is the problem, then there is no need to that. For example, let's say that you want to have a laundry system. For example, a laundry system. So what's the problem? So what's the problem actually? No problem. Just I want to create a laundry system. So it does not make it for a research, okay? Because there must be an interesting problem that you must be able to describe, to convince that you want to spend 1 year to solve this problem. So is it worth it? Is it worth it? Okay, so it must identify the problem. Okay, if you have only one problem, because one main problem, you write the problem statement in one paragraph. But if you have more than one problems, state the problem in point form and make elaboration. Okay, you elaborate for each point. So this is how it is written in the final year project guideline. In some other research, okay, they do not like point form. They just paragraph, no point form, please. In some other research, okay, but in FYP, I've read the guideline. If you have more than one problems, so you need to put in point form and make the elaboration. Okay, do not include in the problem statement your expected solution. Okay, your expected solution or outcome in the problem statement. Do not include. Okay, let me give you one example. Okay, the same example for the title just now. Okay, this is a virtual lab learning application for simulating chemistry experiments in the SPM syllabus. Okay, now these students have identified there are 3 problems. There are 3 problems related why she wants to do this. Okay, now the point form, there are 3 problems. So point number 1, okay, in the thesis she put this as number 1, but in my slide I just put as a bullet, as a bullet. Okay, okay, lack of visual experience. So this I put the bracket problem 1, just I put this as just to show you. This is problem number 1, lack of visual experience. So the this is the point. The elaboration, many students cannot reinforce their understanding by visually experience the process and outcome of science experiments. This is because often there is a shortage of access to school laboratory and insufficient amount of apparatus and material required, especially at public schools in rural areas. So meaning that she is saying that, okay, there's the school lab, the chemistry lab is not enough, especially in rural areas. Sometimes in the labs, because this using chemical, okay, some of the chemical materials are not there, okay, are not sufficient. So meaning that, so at the end of the day, the students need to just look at the book, and the teacher will say, okay, read the book, so this is the outcome, without visually experiencing the experiment itself. So here the point is lack of visual experience, and this is the description. Okay, this is how she actually put the problem. This is problem number 1. Okay, problem number 2, risk of lab accident. Okay, the elaboration is experiment misconducts by students during laboratory session may cause accidents and result in serious injuries. Okay, because this is chemical experiment. Sometimes everything can burn, can explode, and so on. Okay, this is because some chemicals that are found in chemistry lab are explosive or corrosive in nature, and most apparatus used in chemistry labs are made of glass. Okay, see, the elaboration actually explains why is it there is a risk of lab accident. Okay, and number 3, the last problem is that difficulty in monitoring students' performance. Okay, the explanation is that the traditional ways of students to assess their understanding of the experiments are by answering lab exercises and writing lab reports. These methods are rather time consuming as they take a longer time to prepare the exercise materials. Besides, these traditional ways of assessment make it difficult for the parents or teachers to monitor their learning performance. Okay, now you can see that we have problem 1, the point, the elaboration. Problem 2, the point, elaboration. Problem 3, the point and the elaboration. Okay, you notice that there's no talking about virtual lab. There's no talking about learning application. See, the problem is, why is it that it is a problem? For example, you have a laundry system. If we can accept laundry system as the title, assume that we accept that. What is the problem? What is the problem? Why is it? Okay, so you need to put in the form of problem. So if you have more than one problem, so put in the point form and elaborate. So, but if you only have one problem, so put everything in one paragraph without the point. Okay, without the point. So again, I would actually remind you, do not include the expected solution and outcome in the problem statement. Okay, any question on the problem statement? Ada soalan? Anyone? Okay, no? Okay, let us move. Yes, let us move to the next one.
Prof,
Yes, yes.
is it enough with a problem? Is it enough with one problem? And is it need to be too length or what?
One problem is minimum. One problem is minimum, but of course, the problem must be convincing that why we need to do this. Okay, why we need. For let's say I give you one problem. Okay. Let's say that we need an apps for contact tracing. contact tracing, okay, for COVID-19. Let's say we are going to create a mobile app for contact tracing for COVID-19. Perhaps my problem is that, okay, the current process, assuming that there's no app today, the current process of contact tracing is done manually, so it is time consuming. Okay, it requires a lot of resources. It is very difficult, and it is time consuming. You see that 1, 2, 3, but sometimes I combine everything into one. So if that is the case, I can put everything as one paragraph. So sometimes we can combine. Okay, we can combine because it is process is tedious. Renyah in Malay, okay, renyah is very tedious. The process is difficult. It takes a lot of staff to do contact tracing. Okay, and it is very time consuming. Okay, makan masa yang lama. I can put everything in one paragraph. So yes, minimum is one. Okay, please do not have the problem like 5 or 6 or 7. Okay, so that is too many. So I would recommend try to focus on the maximum of 3 problems. Maximum 3 problems. Okay, so if there are small problems, you can combine the problems into one. Okay, because it is very related. Okay, berkaitan. Okay, you can combine. So do not have like 7 problems. Then we will be asking, sempat ke? Have you enough time to complete your project? Because your application or your system want to solve all these 7 problems. Does your application solve all these 7 problems? Okay, you have to include the problems that your system or your project are going to address. So if there is a problem but your system does not solve that problem, do not include that in the problem statement. Only problems that you think, that you believe that once you have completed your project will solve these problems. Okay, if it does not solve a certain problem, do not include the problem in this, although it's a problem. Okay, remember that your project cannot solve the whole world's problem. You must be selective on what the problems that you want to solve. Okay, your apps does not solve everything, only certain things. Okay, any question?
Sorry sir, does it need to be in paragraph?
Yes, when you write, you need to put in paragraph. For example, here I have, this is one paragraph. Okay, this is one paragraph, but because I have 3, so you have like, this is the, okay, the points. Okay, these particular students in her research proposal in Microsoft Word or in PDF, there are 3 problems. 1 or I, okay, the Roman 1, I. Okay, I was lack of visual experience. So this is like a header, lack of visual experience 1. And you have many students, this is the paragraph. Okay, then she goes the second point, risk of lab accident, risk of lab accident, and you have the content. And the third point, this is like the header, difficulty in monitoring student performance, and description is like this. Okay, if you just give the points without the elaboration, that would not be sufficient. You need to elaborate. Okay, you need to elaborate.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I understand.
Okay, boleh faham
Thank you sir.
Okay, welcome. Okay, this is problem statement. Okay, now after the problem statement, we have the research objectives. Okay, now when you have the problem, you have described the problem, then what do you want to do? Okay, so you need to explain what is the problem is, then only you say, okay, this is what my project will do to solve that problem. Okay, uh, now, uh, in the context, okay, of final year project, okay, so actually, I take this part of it, based on the FYP guideline. So it is preferable that the objectives of the project, uh, research should be closely aligned to the general approach of the, software development lifecycle or systems development lifecycle, while related to the problem statement. Meaning that in general, when you develop a software, an application or a system, normally you will cover the analysis, design, implementation and testing. Okay, so here within the objectives, so we like you to include the objectives, uh, very closely aligned to this. Okay, for example, I give you an example. Okay, now this is the case study just now. See the objectives of the project. Okay, now, if you look into the FYP guideline, okay, it actually, mentions the objective of the system. Okay, if you have that objective of the system, okay, yesterday I have, sent a message to, Miss, Nurul Sharas, asking her to correct this because, actually we have decided among the BSE lecturers, this was a few years back, okay, that for the objective is not objective of the system, but objective of the project. So meaning that if you have the objective of the project or objectives of the research, you can see that this example here given, this is done by this particular student to identify requirements of BelajarLab by conducting a case study on similar learning applications in the market. So you see, this is like analysis. Number 2, to design and develop a web learning management system that supports a BelajarLab virtual learning ecosystem. So this is design, development or implementation. Number 3, to evaluate the correctness and acceptance of BelajarLab by conducting system and user acceptance testings once it is fully developed. Okay, meaning that these students actually decided that to have 3 objectives, whereby she combined between, the design and implementation into one. Okay, so in her example proposal, there are 3 objectives. Okay, how many objectives should you have? Okay, it is recommended to everyone, for all students. The minimum number of objectives are 3. The maximum is 5. No more than 5. Okay, you shouldn't have more than 5. Minimum is 3. Maximum is 5. Okay, this is one example. Okay, now let me share another example. This is from this student who created the EduShare, a hybrid application for the open access and management of online academic content. Here, the objectives of the project are, first, to study the requirements of EduShare by carrying out a case study on existing e-learning applications in Malaysia. So basically, this is like similar to the ones, that we have covered just now. To carry out the design and development of a hybrid application for the open access and management of online academic content. And number 3, to assess the acceptance and correctness of EduShare by carrying out system testing and user acceptance testing after the development completed. Okay, you can see that, you see that when I highlighted the red, the font in red, this is very, closely aligned to the SDLC. Okay, we have the analysis, design, implementation, and testing. And at the same time, each of these objective relates to the problem statement or relates to what the students want to create. For example, here in this case, he is actually studying existing e-learning application, because this is like open access and management of online academic content is related to learning and so on. He actually studies this related to the topic. Okay, to carry out design development, okay, hybrid application, open access. You see, it relates to the title itself, not just saying to carry out the design of the development of the system. Okay, there are some students quite lazy. Number one, to study the requirements of the system. Number two, to carry out the design of the system. Number three, to actually implement the development of the system. Number four, to test the system. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, although it covers the basic cycle, but it's not a good way of writing objective because it does not related to your title itself. Just system. Anyone can copy and paste, put this in some other research, and it's true. So that's not good. So you must at the same time highlight the process, and it must relate to what you are doing, okay, for your title. Okay, so this is, you can see that this is how we write the objectives. Okay, now these are several examples that I consider not preferable. I'm not saying that it is wrong. Okay, because if you look into previous thesis, many like this. This is actually, I've taken this from previous thesis. It's not preferable. It's not good. Okay, because it focuses on the system. For example, the objective of the system are to create a proper. This is one example. Another example, to create a proper medium for school bus companies to promote their business, to automate the system management, to implement cashless technology among school bus companies. Okay, this is what the system does. Okay, but in a project, remember, when we have the research objective or project objective, it is the objective of the project, not the objective of the outcome of the project. In this case, the objectives of the system is the outcome. What does the outcome do? Okay, it does this. But in research proposal, it's not about the outcome. It is about the project itself. So this one is not preferable. And there is a note at the bottom here. What the system is expected to do can be or will be better described in the scope of project. So we have another section, scope of the project. Scope of the project. Okay, another example. Not preferable. The objectives of the system are to provide a convenience management system for property owners. You see, how can a system provide a system? Yeah, objective of this are to provide a convenience management system. System cannot provide a system. Okay, see, to provide tenants with an easy to use platform to manage their units and interact with their landlords. To provide a marketplace for a retail rental unit and other rental spaces. So this is actually the objective of the system. So again, we need to focus on the project itself. So what is expected of you from the project is for you to do analysis, design, development or implementation, and testing. And that's why you need to submit all the documents. Okay, you need the SRS, STS, and so on. So different documents for you to submit. Okay, because that is what we expected you to do, and that is what the objective of your research, of your project. Okay, so in the context of final year project, I would highlight, I would encourage you, do not write objective of the system, meaning that what the system can do, okay, but more of this, okay, what the project does, okay, what the project does. Okay, any question on the objectives? Okay, okay. Now, okay. Lastly, I'm going to the last part of today's class within this slide. So again, I do not cover everything yet. Okay, number 6. Okay, now this is the scope of the project. Okay, this is element number 6 of the research proposal. Okay, now the purpose of the project scope, I missed something here. The purpose of this project scope or scope of project is to give a good idea who are the users of the system, okay, who will benefit from the system or from your product, and what tasks will be included, because we want to see the size, okay, the size of your the size of your project, okay, how deep is your project, and so on. Okay, now for a final year proposal, FYP proposal, the project scope will assist the lecturers to assess the width and complexity of the project, whether the work to be done is appropriate for 10 credits BSc. If I'm not mistaken, 10 credits, okay? So if I am wrong, please correct me. So if I'm not mistaken, it's like FYP1 is 4, FYP2 is 6. If I'm not mistaken. If this is mistaken, I will correct this. Meaning that the total credits must be sufficient. Okay, now example. Okay, again, I'm using the example for this BelajarLab, a virtual lab learning application for simulating chemistry experiments in the SPM syllabus. Okay, now the scope of this research. Okay, now this is actually written by the student. I copy and paste from her proposal. He mentioned that the scope of this research is divided into 3 parts: scope of user, scope of system, and scope of content. Okay, just a note here. If it is compulsory for you to have 2 scopes at least: scope of user, who are the users, and scope of the system. So what does your system cover? Okay, now scope of content. Okay, because this project done by this student is related to learning application, so there is content to be learned. Okay, there's content to be learned. So there is a scope of content. What is the content that you want to cover? Okay, so but for if your project does not related to learning application, meaning that there is no belajar Jawi, to learn English, to learn math, there's no scope of content. Okay, just scope of user and scope of system. Okay, for example, now for a proposal defense, okay, I've read in the guideline saying that, oh, you need to write several pages of scope of user, but for proposal, no need to go very detailed, because what's important is that when the people who evaluates you, for example the lecturers, you have a proposal, what's important to us is that we have some idea of, okay, what are you covering. Okay, so no need to like just the scope 3 pages, no need. Okay, normally a scope will cover like 1 page or perhaps sometimes half a page. Okay, scope of user. Okay, now for the scope. Okay, now here let me give you this example. Scope of user. Okay, the scope of user in this project will consist of 3 roles. which are secondary school students' parent, and administrator. So meaning there are three types of users that will be using this particular student's learning application, virtual lab learning application. So three types of users. Okay, you have students, parents, and administrator. So that's it. That's it. First, scope of user. Okay, scope of system. Now he is being detailed. Okay, now the way that you write the scope of systems, okay, there are several ways. Okay, now this student write in the form of paragraph. So she explains in the form of paragraph, but based on points. Okay, like this, similar to this one. I've seen some students create a table to do like there's a check here, check there, to show that this is the scope of the system. So meaning that both also can, okay, or it's a combination of there is a paragraph, there is a table, and so on. But what's important here is that the scope of system will give a good idea, general idea, what the system or the project will cover. For example, let me read this for you. Number one, the system will consist of registration process for new users. You know, okay, this is one of the tasks. Registration process for new users, including dummy online payment gateway. Dummy because to do payment gateway really is beyond what we can do, because it will cost you. Okay, dummy online payment gateway that will replicate real online payment process. Email notification together with email notification upon successful registration. The system will also include authentication and authorization of registered users. Okay, this is number one. She put as it's a combination of several tasks, several things that she's going to include within this particular system. Okay, number two, there will also be 3 learning modules, which one of them is the virtual lab module. The virtual lab module will include interactive learning presentation to simulate chemistry experiment in the SPM syllabus. Number 2. Number 3, another learning module will be the lab report module, while the third learning module will be the quiz module. Quiz module will assess students' understanding of the experiments that have been learned in the virtual lab module. The system will also include students' progress monitoring that will be viewed by the student and parent. So meaning that what's important here is that when I, as someone who evaluates the proposal, read what is going to be included in the system, so I get a very good idea. Okay, I think if this is being included successfully, I think this is sufficient, perhaps more than enough for a BSE 2-semester project, and this is deep enough and sufficient enough to be considered as FYP, for example. So you need to put in what are the things that you have in your system. So this is the scope of system. Okay. Okay, and because this student have content, because this is learning application, I put here relevant only for application with content. So if this you don't have content, you don't have this part. Okay, you only have scope of user and scope of system. So for example, this content, the scope of content will comprise 4 chemistry experiments that will be included in the virtual lab module. These experiments are within the SPM syllabus and will be based on KBSM practical chemistry textbooks. In addition, the language that will be used throughout the application is English, while the languages that will be used in the virtual lab and quiz modules are Bahasa Malaysia and English. So meaning that this is related content. So if the nature of your project is nothing related to like learning Jawi and so on, for example, you don't have scope of content, but you have scope of system and you have the scope of user. So basically, if you can write something like this, okay, for me, this is sufficient for me to have a very clear idea of what you want to include, what you plan to include in your project. Okay, Okay, perhaps you will ask, what if this changes? Okay, sometimes you plan like this, but later on in the implementation you find, oh, I cannot do this, so difficult, so I need to change some of this. Perhaps I don't want to include this, but then you want to include something else that you do not put in the proposal. No problem, that can be discussed with the supervisor. Okay, so basically this is the scope of the scope, consisting of scope of user, scope of system, and if you are related to like learning application with content, there is scope of content. Okay, okay, disclaimer. So basically finish. Okay, so we are done. So basically, any question on the scope of the project? Any question on this? So is it clear to you?
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir, it's clear.
Okay, so basically
Yes,
just to give you some things. Okay, for the
Sir?
assignment later on, so I will give you, okay, because you are doing, most of you will doing 2 per group. So for the assignments, I will later give you some area of research, but basically you do not need to do any development. Just let's say everything is in your mind. Okay, meaning that assume that you are developing something. I will give you something, then I would ask you to write, okay, if you are to develop something, you write a proposal. So write what is the introduction, what is the background, what is the objectives, what is the problem statement, what is the title, so what is the scope. So that will be your assignment later on. So I will give you this assignment, two students per group, to come up with a part of a research proposal until scope of project, until this one. Okay, based on a certain scenario. So I will give you, okay, now the scenario is this. Okay, this is the conditions. So please come up with a research proposal. Okay, so in this course you do not need to do any development, just you need to come up with your ideas. So what are the things that you want to add? Okay, that I will give, okay, your assignment I will give you next week. So I expect everyone will be able to give who are the members in your group. Okay, please refer to the WhatsApp group. Okay, you write in your names, copy and paste. Okay, please copy and paste so that I have a list of who and who within a particular group. Okay, now disclaimer. Basically, the content is actually, the ideas are mine, but but the content of, because I've taken this from students' research proposal, so the content is owned by the students and of course by UNIKL, because these are previous BSE students. So I just take up examples from their previous research proposal. Okay, this is the disclaimer. Okay, any questions on today's lesson? Any question?
Sir,
Yes.
I want to ask about the online payment. So we can actually do the dummy one.
Because for online payment, okay, you need to have access to payment gateway. Okay, so for payment gateway, so basically if you want, if your system, let's say your system in the scope, you say that you want to do payment, online payment. Okay, you need to do online payment, but for some reason, but for obvious reason, you do not have access to the real. For example, you want to pay through CIMB clicks. How are you going to pay through CIMB clicks if you cannot have the codes for the payment, because you need to actually register. There are payment, the process is very costly, it's not cheap. So in some cases, okay, some supervisors will require, because there are some free codes, some free hosting that allow students to simulate using like this is like a prototype offered by some other on the online, but it's not the real payment gateway, but it's almost a real payment gateway. You can use that. But in this particular example, the student decided that it is too difficult, so she decided that okay, she created a dummy. Dummy means that uh, it's not just the interface, but it sort of when she actually clicks, let's say you want to pay using CIMB clicks, the interface are similar to what you have in the real environment. The only missing thing is that it will send to the bank and the bank will send the response back. Now she does not have that. Sending to the bank and the bank send back the approval. That's the only part that she is missing. Because that part she cannot do it because of the difficult limitation. This is what we call limitation of the project, because not everything we can do it. Because like payment, you need to liaise with the authority, like payment gateway, okay? So basically that is allowable as a dummy data, okay? So do I answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, any question? Okay, if not, yes, ada apa-apa ke?
Regarding to the FRP project, do we need to publish if let's say I am developing a website? Do we need to publish the website or is it just like a prototype?
Okay, so basically for the final year project, it is sufficient to have a prototype. So basically, I think many students for the final year project, they use localhost. Okay? So it is www, it's not www, meaning that it's localhost. It does not run from a web server, the actual web server, but it runs from the local host. But I know some students who actually publish everything to a real web server. But the problem when you present, sometimes the Wi-Fi is slow, the internet connection is slow. So during your demonstration, when your project is being evaluated, we advise using localhost. You know why? Because localhost is fast. You are using your laptop. Okay, everything is within your laptop, so everything is fast. But if you are using like the real, then there is sometimes there is limitation. Sometimes the internet is like terrible slow. The web server is slow, so it will jeopardize your presentation. So as much as possible, for the final presentation, use localhost. Okay. Okay. Any
sir.
question?
Excuse me, Prof.
Yes.
I have a question regarding the introduction and background.
Okay.
Kan Prof kata kita macam kena refer some resources macam
Yes.
a books or journal. So let's say if my FRP project is macam new and macam tak banyak lagi ada. So I'm having difficulties in finding the right resources. So do you have any advice?
Okay, I
Or
will. Okay,
alternatives?
I can advise about that. Okay, but about these resources, okay, I will cover next week. Next week, I will cover what kind of resources that you can do to support your writing. Okay, so yang itu nanti, insyaAllah, next week we will cover about how do you want to, you nak buat literature. This is what we call literature review, whereby you, because for example, when you say there is a problem, who says siapa benda tu ada problem? Okay, it cannot be that it's just I say it is a problem. For example, let's say I'm talking about COVID. There is a need for contact tracing mobile application. Okay, so meaning that because when you want to sell your idea, definitely you want to convince people that what you are doing is very important. So when you say that COVID-19 is very important for anyone, for the authorities to do contact tracing, okay, then we ask who says this. Definitely there is someone with authority that says that contact tracing is important. So because contact tracing is important, an application for contact tracing also is very important. So we need to find who says this. So if let's say just anyone, Atan, who is Atan? Nobody knows. Okay, say that contact tracing is important, then we will know. You cakap betul ke? But if you have Tan Sri Dr. Hisham Nur Hisham Abdullah of the DG, Director General of Ministry of Health, says so, kat mana dia cakap? Okay, dia ada dekat at the, let's say, Kementerian Kesihatan, the Ministry of Health website. There is saying that it's very important for contact tracing. Or perhaps you go to the WHO website, World Health Organization, saying that contact tracing is important, and so on. So basically, benda-benda tu yang justify why is it important for us to do that. Okay, but then let's say you say you want to create, let's say my example, laundry system. Then I say, why is it important for have a system for a laundry? Do you need a system actually? Who says that? Tak ada, nobody says that. I just rasa macam benda tu penting. So you see, that kind of argument mungkinlah accepted, but it's not strong. It's not strong. So basically on how do we want to support our argument, because proposal is kita memohon untuk please lah, I want to do this. Nak dengar orang kata okay kan. So we need to convince that the project is worthwhile, berbaloi untuk kita spend 1 year buat benda tu, and it must be of importance. Okay, so basically insyaAllah, so please be patient. Next week saya akan cover this part. How do you want to find material to support your work? I wish I can give you everything today, but of course kita kena buat minggu-minggu lah. Next week insyaAllah we will cover about that. Okay, any question? Okay, if not, I think dah 1:30. So I welcome you kalau if there is other questions yang saya boleh jawab. Okay, I cannot answer you can send the questions dekat WhatsApp group. Okay, share the question WhatsApp group. Kalau saya rasa saya boleh jawab, it's not too long, I can answer that. But if benda tu ni panjang cerita ni, we need another week, so we will cover when the time comes. Okay? Okay, ada sebarang soalan? Okay, jika tidak ada, so all the best to you guys. I'm looking forward to get the names of the group members, the latest by Monday, and I will be giving your assignment next week lah. Next week, so saya akan bagi like 3 weeks also untuk buat this assignment. Okay, so all the best to you. I see you again next week. Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam.
Sir.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, siapa nama tadi semua dah scan, kecuali seorang yang tak datang tadilah. Okay, so insyaAllah I will render our video yang this saya akan publish, saya akan letak kat BLE lah nanti when it is ready. Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.